Well, if you might have been reading the news, the Perth Street Circuit has been announced and it looks like it's going ahead, but it hasn't come without its controversy. In this video, I'm going to go over what Newcastle 500 went through as a local resident and also a racer in the Newcastle 500, and what everyone can probably learn before this event comes up to make sure that it lasts and stay on the V8 Supercar calendar. I'm Cody Mackay. Watch along, I'm sure it'll be a wild ride. Now you might be saying, who is this guy talking about another racetrack? Well, I'm here with my race car behind me. I race with all the V8 Supercar rounds as part of the support categories for the Aussie racing cars. And I've been lucky in my time to not only race in the Newcastle 500 as a local resident, I'm also live just up the road from where the Newcastle 500 track is, but I've also got a business that's right next to the precinct as well. So not only do I race, my business is in there, and also live right near the track as well. So I'm probably pretty qualified to talk about this because not only have I been on the track, but I've been off the track as well, dealing with all the angry local residents. Not only that, but I've also raced at Gold Coast. I've also raced Adelaide 500. I think the only street circuit I haven't raced is probably Albert Park, which is near impossible to get onto. So maybe when I become an F1 driver one day. So this race or this event, the Perth Super Sprint or Perth Street Circuit, whatever you want to call it, has already come up with a heap of controversy. Same as what we've seen in the Newcastle 500. We see politicians having a go at each other. We see residents not happy. We see them happy. We see everything in between. It's becoming an absolute cluster. And, you know, the one thing that I've really seen from street circuits, as we've seen in the past from Supercars events, if you don't keep everyone on board, there's a guarantee that it probably isn't going to go for a very long time. You can see the Hamilton Street Circuit, the Canberra Street Circuit, Newcastle Street Circuit, and there's probably a few others in between that have been added to the graveyard of fantastic events and places we want to race, but we can't race anymore. Now, with the Newcastle 500, it was tense at first and then it just got worse and worse. COVID didn't help it. That's obviously a big factor of what's going on. But what really happened is you found it dividing the town. You found that the locals were, well, when I say locals, I mean people directly in the East Enders. And I'm not talking about all of them. There was some vocal people in there that kept battering on about the race and how much they didn't like the race. You got the council doing one thing and you got Supercars doing another thing as well. One thing I've seen from street circuits travelling around the country is everyone has to be in unison. That means the council, that means the government, that means Supercars, that means the residents and the racers and all that type of stuff. Any street circuit that I have seen that is solely on the street, so it doesn't use like a park section like Albert Park or Adelaide 500 or Townsville as well. They're all ones that have got generally a park that they run through and use some roads. The only exclusion to that is the Indy round, but I think there's so many Airbnbs there that you don't get a lot of local residents living in there and a lot of short-term accommodation and stuff. The best thing about being in, say, like a park type street circuit is there's very minimal impact to the locals. That's one thing of, you're going to have locals that are just going to hate the race and not going to understand it. They want nothing to do with it. And that's the same with every event. Making sure that that park location, which the Perth circuit looks like it's got, is going to guarantee that it's going to go for a long time. Geez, I think there'd have to be 10 plus years on Townsville at the moment. There'd be more on Albert Park and Adelaide. Geez, they're going for nearly 30 years. So we can see how they've really, come through. The park section just makes sure that we minimise residents' interruptions from their day-to-day. We've seen it from the Newcastle 500 of how upset some grey-haired people were getting about just being interrupted. They were outside their scheduling, outside their tasks in a sense. It didn't help that around the East End is a very, very strong green supporting area. So, look, I don't hold anything against anyone or how they vote or anything like that. But we know that the green side of voting is extreme left. We know extreme left hate V8s and drag racing and petrol, anything. They don't want anything to do with it. And it becomes a lot of what happens there. And it's probably one of the downfalls of what happened to the Newcastle 500. One thing also as well is the businesses that sit inside there. Now, the benefit of Perth is it hasn't got businesses directly in the venue, same as what Newcastle had and other circuits have got. They're all, from what seems to be, outside, and we're getting this car actually ready to go over to Perth, and we're going to check out the grounds and stuff like that, get a bit of reconnaissance mission on there to see if it's going to be a worthwhile thing. So we can probably put a tick on there that we don't see the businesses are going to be affected because there's no one being locked into the circuit as we've seen on the others. We can probably see that the residents aren't going to be majorly affected. From what I've seen, the residents are really complaining about the noise, which is also one, a major thing. But I think from what I've seen, tracing my maps out and seeing where people live and stuff, the noise isn't going to be a major factor. Once you step back far enough from a racetrack, a good example, if you ever seen us pitted at the Townsville circuit just off turn 1, we can sit there next to the track happily having a conversation because a lot of the noise dissipates through the air. Newcastle didn't have the same thing. It just bounced off the walls and the buildings, and it made a massive echo chamber of being way too loud, and I love it. I raced it. But even me, I was like, geez, this is quite noisy. It wasn't until you spit it out through the esplanade that it really dispersed. So we're hoping that with the residents not really being affected, the local businesses in the area not being affected or minimally affected, that we should see longevity for a race. The benefit is they'll be able to reuse that area for other places like, music venues and cycling events and all that type of stuff. I know cyclists always complain that it's very dangerous out there on the road because you've got absolute hooligans trying to run them off the road. Having that there for a safe space is going to be pretty good. So we look like we're going to be a benefit of it there. One thing that really I'm seeing coming out is a lot of misinformation. I know one politician, if I get the article and throw it up here, they were suggesting that they were going to move another venue with drag racing and speedway straight in that park. Now, I don't know if you've done a basic measurement, but a drag race is definitely not going to fit in there. A speedway is not going to survive in there. This is going to be a street circuit. It's a one-time event. So recapping everything from what we've seen from previous events to this event, we've got to make sure that everyone works together because that's been the major downfall of these events. Supercars have to inform the residents and businesses that might be affected and support them. I know with the Motorsport Act where major motorsport events don't really have to reimburse or look after these people. Sometimes they do it out of good faith. If they are affected, we need to make sure they're on site and we need to make sure that they're taken care of in a sense. Because it only takes one person to start a rally up against these things. We're already seeing it there. At the same time, it's all about spreading the right information. What are the noise levels going to be like? What is the effect to the local park going to be like? What does the park look like? And all that type of stuff. I'm sure there's some Perth residents on here that can comment about it as well. And the council and everyone in between has to really be on side because as soon as we see one part that's opposed of it, it might be residents, it might be Supercars, it might be the businesses or anyone in between, the councils and stuff like that, that's when the downfall of the event happens. Now, Newcastle 500 seemed to go all right for the first event, but then as it went on and then as businesses weren't getting, reimbursed for their time of being locked into areas, we've seen residents putting residence areas that were locking up businesses and Supercars were taking all the other ones and that. It was no one's fault, but everyone's fault. No one worked together and it wasn't a good unison of the party from there. I see potentially that Perth will work like that if everyone works together, and I really hope it's another event that gets added to the calendar. I know I want to race that event as much as possible, whether it be in this car, another car, or anything else from there. But making sure that everyone works together, making sure there's a heap of information out there, making sure there's a heap of support. So, if the organisers come through and say that we need to support the businesses or the residents affected or something like that, that's going to help, and that's going to lessen the blow in a sense, because we're even seeing Albert Park residents are still complaining from 30 years ago that the race still happens. Townsville seems pretty good. We only hear minimal complaints from there. Adelaide, here's another one that we still hear rumours and complaints of every now and again. It only takes one person to really snowball this into absolutely dire straits, and then we lose a circuit. All this investment could have gone somewhere else to invest in a better circuit from there. These events bring the crowd. People want to be at these events. I love these events. I love street circuits. I see this as all the things are lining up that Perth could be the one that stays on for many, many, many years. But getting it working together, getting all parties right, that's what's going to keep these events, and hopefully it doesn't turn up like another Newcastle 500. So what's your thoughts on this street circuit? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you want something to change? What are your absolute thoughts? I want to see them below. I want people to comment and tell me exactly what they're thinking. And I'd love to do the research. I'm over there in about a week or two, so we can go around talking to residents. We can go around seeing what the people at the racetrack feel and seeing what the venue looks like as well. That's one thing I want to check out. I only seen it very quickly last year. So hopefully we might have a good event for us in 2027. So stay posted, stay tuned to the channel. Thank you everyone for the last video as well. That absolutely popped off. I hope to make a lot more videos like this. If you've got a topic you want to hear, comment below. I want to talk about it. Thanks guys.